Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I don't know. I've experienced this in a lot of moments, and people do. I mean, you're always experiencing these sort of just wonderful moments where you're feeling engaged and invigorated by something. But some of my earliest ones were writing HTML code when the web was brand new. And what was fascinating was the idea of the shift between the source page where you'd be writing this code and then you'd display it in the browser, and there'd be this sort of like translation between those two states, and you could just really get sucked into writing this code, or programming any other kind of coding language. You can have the exact same phenomenon take place. So I think it's mostly a matter of being motivated by the project and getting lost in it in some ways. And I completely try to make this happen in other contexts. So in teaching, I do things like have a portfolio system so that when students are working on a project, there's no grade involved whatsoever. So the motivation becomes more intrinsic, and they're much more likely to just be focused on what they're making. And I also try to do things like give them a comfortable balance between unfamiliarity and I don't know, just a sense that they can accomplish the task. So if I'm asking them to make a video and it's a brand new experience, sometimes I'll say, make a character analysis video. You know what that is. It's not going to trip you up that much, but you're also going to go into this weird space of doing your character analysis through the screen. And then they're able to kind of get lost into that same process, hopefully. So then they lose track of time too and kind of get engaged in the project instead of thinking about school and that kind of stuff. Uh, Yeah, a lot of it is kind of an homage to some teachers I've had that really meant a lot to me. So, and some of it I think had to do with um, these calls for manifestos that come out every 4 or 5 years, and I kind of wanted to capture some of the things that I really find most valuable about computers and writing. And, with the growth of digital humanities now and the way that, every 5 or 6 years people are sort of rediscovering things like, oh, you can use computers and isn't it creative? I kind of wanted to um, capture the tenets of the computers and writing community that really matter, the ideas of like experimentation, or people will help you, you can make mistakes, you don't have to know everything, all of these sorts of things that really make it wonderful to work in this kind of environment. So it's just a way of maybe coming up with a list of those and codifying them in some ways, driven in part by external circumstances where, sometimes a little bit of frustration as people rediscover things that you've been doing for a long time and wanting to just sort of recover that history and, just make it available in some ways. But a lot of it is personal too. I just really wanted to celebrate some of the experiences I've had too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. Mhm. Yes, I do really like this alt scholarship path that I've kind of been going down for a while. And so I think there's two pieces. I have two hopes for what might be generated from this, and one has to do with just opening up our understanding of what can be scholarship. And a lot of this, I think, even in traditional literary theory or theoretical areas, people are saying, why does scholarship have to be so combative? Why do we always have to be, chopping each other down? Is there not a way in which we can, have an affirmative kind of scholarship or a human respectful kind of scholarship? So that's one of the things that I would hope is, a piece um, that's celebrating, and it's not, making counter arguments and saying yes, but that kind of stuff. So there's one thing there I would hope that it would just create more energy or more desire for that, or maybe just serve as an example of what you can do that isn't the typical academic gnashing of teeth or what have you. So I think that's one of my main aims. But the other one that is actually related in some ways is I feel that it's conceivable that some of that behavior is linked to the essay form or the academic article form, where there's the literature review and then you slice it up and then you put in an alternative thing. And so I worry that the forms that we use, particularly the ones that have kind of a print centric history, might be complicit in these behaviors that I just think it's worth pushing against a little bit. So that's where this one really is offering, I think, an example of saying, okay, you can also challenge things or you can go in a different way, but let's not do it in prose. Or, I mean, there's prose in there, there's plenty of language, but let's use multimedia just in case there's something to be had there that's affirmative, that isn't available to us when we're just looking at words on a page. So that's the other area I think is it's multimedia and it's alternative scholarship expressed through an alternative form through multimedia rather than talking about multimedia or alternative scholarship in a print form. And I think, if people could take one thing away, it would be, well, this is actually using the medium or the form itself to articulate and enact the argument or the claims or the, I don't know, just the message that it's trying to make, rather than sort of doing that from a distance in some other non-native form. Uh, Yeah. In the computers and writing area, some of the people I mentioned in that video were good influences on me. And then, Anne Wysocki and others who've been doing multimedia scholarship. The whole Kairos ecosystem and journal, I think, has been a huge inspiration to me. Kairos has been huge for my scholarship, and it's every 4 or 5 years, I feel like there's a new kind of technical edge that is welcomed and creates a space for scholars to kind of practice in new modes that emerges in that journal. So I think that's all been really valuable to me, those influences. And then, lately, a lot of my colleagues I have these videos I've been making lately. I've been working with Jason Lone on my campus, and we have this thing where we would trade these videos. So, instead of like sending each other an email message, we would like, let's make up a video. Well, we just will like send screencasts back and forth, and we did that for a while, and it really kind of got me even further down the path of thinking about, can you really use an alternative mode, and what comes from it.